Hi, everyone. I'm Teri.
And I'm Ella.
Welcome to the Chasing Red Flags podcast. Let's get real.
Here, no topic is off limits.
And real beats perfect every time.
Welcome to the conversation.
Welcome to where you belong.
You're part of the family now, so let's get real together. Hi, Mama.
Hi, sweetie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm really excited about today.
I know you're excited too because you got your hair colored this morning and it looks gorgeous.
I did.
Extra dark, I'm not gonna lie.
It is a little darker than normal.
I like it.
Katie doesn't ever let me choose. She just kind of does what she wants. I have been, as you
trust
know, I trust her. I've been with her for over 20 years and I've never cheated on her. I have literally never gotten my hair colored by anyone else. But today when I was leaving, she actually said that she was going to add a headache fee to my bill because I drive her crazy. Isn't that so funny?
And you probably talk, I've been there a few times that you just talk the entire time.
I do, but we both talk to each other, but I was driving her crazy because I'm like, I got to go. I got a podcast. I got to go.
Fair. Fine.
All right. I'm so excited.
Me too. But before we introduce today's guest, we just want to say thank you all so much for being here. We truly appreciate your support. Whether you're tuning in for the first time or you're a day one listener, please subscribe to the Chasing Red Flags podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to yours. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel to watch all of the episodes. I'm also really excited for today. We have a 3-time Olympic athlete joining us.
It's insane and incredible to think about. Think about it, Ella. She competed in London, Rio, and Tokyo.
I was going to say Tokyo.
The discipline and years of hard work it takes to be in 3 Olympics is insane. It's mind-blowing.
It's inspiring. I can't wait to talk to her.
Today, we're honored to welcome 3-time Olympian and Canadian runner, Melissa Bishop-Nriagu, to the podcast. As one of the world's top middle distance runners specializing in the 800, Melissa has competed in the London, Rio, and Tokyo Olympics. She holds the Canadian record in the 800 and achieved an incredible 4th place in the Rio Olympics.
And beyond her incredible athletic achievements, Melissa also balances motherhood, elite competition, and her advocacy for mental health throughout her work with organizations like Momentum and Classroom Champions. And her resilience and dedication, it just inspires so many people both on and off the track.
Melissa's journey has been filled with both triumphs and challenges, and her story is one we can all learn from. We are so grateful for you to be here today and taking the time to talk to us. We're huge fans, and we couldn't be more excited. Welcome to the Chasing Red Flags podcast. Let's get real.
Yay. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
We're so excited. We got to chat briefly the other day, and, we could have talked for hours. So we're going to dive right in. Starting with the early days, running is such a big, big family commitment. So what was your family like and how did they help you as a young athlete?
Oh gosh, my family, I was very fortunate to have the experiences and the opportunities that I did. My family basically was just like, if I brought something up, like brought something to the table, like, hey, I want to play hockey, I want to play volleyball, I want to drive 2 hours to be on the track team. They were like, great, let's do it. As long as you're committed to it, we're happy to help you. We're happy to help you make those dreams come true. And so I was, a multi-sport athlete for as long as I can remember. My brother was a multi-sport athlete. We were on the roads like majority of families, like every single weekend, every single night. Like my mom was always planning ahead, like 2 meals ahead, just so that we could have dinner on the road. And, I didn't really specialize in track and field until right before university, but I was doing all the sports I could at school, even in elementary school, because I wanted to be with my friends. To me, it was social hour, and you got a couple days off school a week. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, I'm very competitive and I love the sports I was doing, except for baseball. I did not like baseball. I only did it because my friends are doing it.
It's a little slow, baseball.
It was just the stage of my life, maybe, I don't know, but that was what my childhood was like. We had the opportunity to be involved. I was raised by 2 very strong parents. Again, I say this, I'm so lucky to have had the parents that I had and the family support that I had, because when I was in grade 12, I actually picked up and I left home with my parents' support. I moved 2 hours away from my home so that I could do track and field at a higher level, so that I could get that full ride in the States that I was working towards. And I left all my friends and all my teammates back at home. And I had the support of some, and then the people who didn't support me, and rumors started to fly, they were no
Hmm.
longer in my support circle. And you learn very
Yep.
quickly who's on your team and who's not on your team.
Yep.
I like the support circle.
Yeah.
That's a good
I love that
analogy.
line, support
Yeah.
circle.
Mhm.
We're going to use that. That's good.
Yeah. When did you actually, you said around university, but like when did you realize that you wanted to pursue running professionally? Was there like a specific moment, like this is it, this is what I want to do?
I think it wasn't really until I was done university. I always loved track and field. I always wanted to be an Olympian. That was my dream since I was a little girl. I fell out of love with the sport actually going into university. Like my last year, I ended up getting injured. I moved away from home, like I just mentioned. I had an opportunity to rebel because I wasn't under my parents' eyes. I wasn't
Yep.
as busy because I wasn't playing multiple sports. So I had met a great group of friends. We live close to the Quebec border where the drinking age is a lot younger than it is in Ontario. So we had fake
Yep.
IDs. Like I had, like I was a teenager. I
You
Yeah.
could
had the
do, I had
experience,
the
which is great
experience.
actually.
It
Yeah.
That's not
is.
what I was expecting you to say. So I love that you had that for
But I
yourself.
needed
Yeah.
it, Terry. I needed it because once I got it out of my system, it was my first year university, going into university, it got it out of my system. And then I entered my second year, third year. I was like, okay, this is what I really want to do. I was able to focus on the
Yeah.
things that I wanted.
You knew.
And then I graduated um, from my bachelor's degree in university, and my coach said, "Hey, Melissa, I think we should take a shot at the Olympics." It was always my dream. And as soon as he said that, I was like, "Yeah, I'm ready to put everything on hold." I was going back to get my master's. I deferred it so that I could
Oh,
train for the Olympics. We put all our eggs into one basket, and then I made the Olympic team in 2012. That was my very first Olympics. And that's when I realized I am not done with this sport. Being at the
Yeah.
Olympics that first time was not the Olympics I had imagined in my mind. And so that's when I was like, okay, now it's time to get real about this. And that's when I really started
Yeah.
to like, okay, I want to do this for professionally, not knowing that any of the fortunes that I've had out of this sport were coming my way, but just for my inner drive and my inner goals, like that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
It's
then you
awesome.
start to sacrifice a little bit, your social life and other things. So,
Yeah.
but there's also a lot of focus that becomes on your body, right? And
Yes.
physical fitness. So, was managing that training and keeping your body in peak shape like a hard mental challenge for you when the stakes got higher or
Yeah, it was a learning curve, I would say. That was the hardest part was the learning curve. And you know, I I enjoyed what I did, and I think that's why I was able to pour so much energy into my training and into the physical
Yeah.
side of stuff, into my nutrition, because I actually really wanted it so badly. It wasn't just like someone
Mhm.
was forcing me to do it. And I also had the support of, my circle, and they really
Yeah.
right?
wanted it for me. And that's what helped me, you know, kind of commit 100% to every single thing I was doing. Were there sacrifices? Oh my gosh, so many. So like I
Yeah.
couldn't even tell you what I have missed out on.
So many.
Like it's insane, but I don't know that I would go back and do it any differently because I was going after a dream, you guys, and I don't
Yeah.
know and I talk to people about this, and I don't know how to put this into words, but if you had a dream and you had the opportunity to go after it and it was just at your fingertips, you would do
Anything
Anything.
to get
anything to
Yeah.
get there, right? So that's kind of where I put
Yeah.
myself. Was it a mental load? 100%. Was I exhausted? Yes, but I built naps into my day. I had a sports psychologist, I had a nutritionist, I had a team that was like, okay, we are on board 100%. As much as you are, we'll put 100% into this too. And that's totally what made my career.
I love that because I feel like building on that, I really do feel like it's about mindset and like recovery and pushing through all of those tough days, which
Mhm.
I probably can imagine, especially as an Olympic athlete you had. So, like, how did you actually stay motivated to keep going, especially when the pressure was so incredibly high?
Oh my gosh. I think, I remember early on in my career between the 2012 and the 2016 Olympics. And I kept thinking, okay, how am I going to get that upper edge? What is my upper edge on the rest of the world?
Right.
And
Yep.
don't get me wrong, there are days when I don't love my sport. There are days when
Yep.
I'm like, this is a drag. I do not want to go to practice. I don't want to run my heart out and hurt and have to breathe so heavy. Like those days exist because we're human. We don't love
Yeah.
everything we do,
Of course.
right? It's
Right.
not easy getting to your goals. And so there were days I would sit on the couch and be like, okay, what are my competitors doing that I'm not doing today? I bet you they're doing a workout. And very quickly I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I'm out the door. As much as this sucks and as
Got
much
it.
as I don't want to be there, as soon as I was in it, I was like, hey, I am more than happy to be here and to be doing this.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that.
So you've had the honor of competing in not one, not two, but 3 Olympic Games. London
Yeah.
in 2012, Rio in 2016, and Tokyo in 2020.
Yes.
So that's an incredible
Oh
accomplishment.
my God,
Thank you.
amazing.
Incredible.
Thank you.
How does it feel to have represented Canada on the world's biggest stage 3 times?
Oh gosh. It's again, that is something that I don't know that I can describe.
Answer.
It's
God,
hard
yeah.
because it's such an honor to be able to wear the maple leaf or your country's flag on your chest and be able to run around a track or whatever field of play you're on and know that every single person in your country is standing behind you and cheering for you, whether they know you or not. And that's the beauty of what the Olympics
Yep.
is, right? It's like it brings everybody
Yes.
together. And so I remember being in Toronto. It was the Pan American Championships. I just come off this injury. It was the year before 2016 games. I just come off this injury. I'm racing in a home track. I'm in Canada. It's the 800-meter final, women's 800-meter final. And this stadium is electric. Like I cannot describe to you how much
I've chills.
energy
Imagine.
you get from a
Yeah.
stadium full of Canadians that are cheering for
Cheering
you,
you on.
right? And I have
Yeah.
never in my life had a race like it. I won it. I like it was total mental grit that got me to that point. But
Yeah.
I wish every athlete could compete at home in a home stadium because I get
Absolutely.
teary-eyed
That's
thinking
like a
about
different
it.
feeling.
It is.
Yeah.
It's like so much energy poured into like it was
Yeah.
such a high. It was such a high. It was
Ugh.
incredible. And to do that on an Olympic stage, Rio was amazing in itself. Tokyo could have been great, but it was the pandemic. So there was like nobody in the
Yep.
stands. It was like
Oh, yeah.
crickets, which was a whole other mental thing, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my
So
God.
anyway, that's later. We'll talk about that later.
Yes, because I was
We're
I was
gonna
gonna
get
ask
into that.
I know because I want to hear. I mean, I want to hear highlights from like every single
Yes.
location that you've been. But we got to start with London because that was your first.
Yeah.
Like, what stands out to you from like your very first Olympics?
Oh my gosh, how much accessibility to things that we had. How much stuff was free. You go into that
Oh.
village and as an athlete, first time athlete, very naive to what, what the Olympic experience could be like. London was phenomenal.
So there was no like preparation team that sat you down and was like, "This is what's going to happen, and this is what you're going to
Oh,
get,"
there was.
and you just
There was.
Oh, there was.
But
Okay.
as like a rookie Olympian going in there, it's just like
Yeah.
fireworks. Everything you do is just
Yeah.
like it's very hard to go into an Olympic village and keep your shit together because there
Yeah.
is so much noise. And I don't mean like actual noise, I mean distraction
Oh, yeah.
noise, right?
Just- yeah.
Let alone like you
Yeah.
have to share a room, you have a roommate, you're in a large apartment building. There are the entire country, the entire
Yeah.
world, all the different countries are like
crazy.
roaming the streets. It's like a little city, these
It's crazy.
villages, right? So when I walked into London, it was like, okay, you go to this fitting, you get all your Canada gear from here, and then you come here and you go get all this free food, and then you swipe this card and you get this free drink and this free thing and this free thing, and it was just like phones and like
Ella, you need to go to the Olympics.
I know. I should.
All this free stuff.
I know.
It sounds so fun.
it is so fun, and that's why I say it's very hard, to walk into these games and really focus on what you need to do.
Concentrate.
And that's
Yeah.
why London, I'm so happy it happened as young as I was because I needed that
Right.
experience. I needed to go in and have my fun in the village and experience all the food and, again, just doing everything you could because you can go to the salon,
Yeah.
you can get your hair done, your nails done. Like you guys, everything is thought of. You go to the gift shop. I did all that in London.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that was so fun. Did I perform at my best? No. Was I very
Right.
upset about it? Yes. But did it motivate me for the next 8 years? hell yeah. That was
Yes.
my motivation.
Yeah.
Because I walked into those
I
Olympics
love
being
that.
like, yep, I can do this, no problem. And then I get my ass kicked,
Yeah.
bawled my
Yeah.
eyes out, and I was like, okay, this is not what I envisioned as my Olympic experience when I was a
You
little
got to do it
girl.
again.
I need to do this
Yep.
again so that I can actually live the dream that I have envisioned for so long.
I know for me, like running has always been my go-to when I just need to like clear my head, especially when I'm stressed or frustrated or like angry. I'm just like, okay, I need to go for a run.
Yeah.
And I literally just like head out. I blast music. But I feel like especially for you, like I know running isn't just about like clearing your head.
Mhm.
It's also like strategy, especially in a race like the 800
Yeah.
meters. How did you kind of like manage to balance like between the speed and endurance and like staying mentally focused during such an intense event?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. So one, I relied on my coach. I trusted him with absolutely every single workout he gave me. If he told me to run this fast for this interval, I would do it. If he told me to slow down, I would do it. Even though in my head I was like, if we run slow, then we race slow. But no, there's a reason
Right.
for everything that he gave me. I trusted everything he gave
The
me,
right coach makes a huge
doesn't
difference.
it?
Yeah.
And we had such a
Yeah.
great relationship, and I credit
That's
him to
awesome.
my entire career. My entire career.
Love that.
My sports psychologist, Ella, was another huge piece to this puzzle.
I love that you had a sports
I do
psychologist.
too. I think that's so important.
That's incredible. And I'm so glad our listeners are hearing
Yep.
that because
Yeah.
it is a mental
It
game.
is a total mental game. You line up on the Olympic Games. Here's the thing. I didn't have a sports psychologist at my first games. I didn't even have it the year after. I didn't have a sports psychologist until the year before the 2016 games in 2015.
Oh, wow.
I got really
Okay.
injured. My career was like on the line here. My season definitely was. I got my sports psychologist. Her name is Penny, and she is still to this day one of my best friends. I go to Calgary and I go and stay with her.
I love
She
that.
is fantastic. Anyways, a sports psychologist completely changed the game for me. When you get to an
Yeah.
Olympics, everybody can run fast. Everybody is fit as they can be. Everybody's on the same level. So what separates you from everybody else is your mental strength. How
Yeah.
much how well can you handle the pressure of being at an Olympics with all these people watching and medals on the line and dreams coming true? You trained 4 years for a 2-minute race. Put
Yeah.
that pressure on the line, right? Like you have to be able to
Yep.
handle that, and you have to learn how to handle that. We aren't taught that unless you have the support of a
No.
psychologist, right? You're not learned.
100%.
You just don't come born with like, okay, I can handle all the pressure in the world. That's not something
No.
we know how to do. You
Yeah.
have to learn how to
So
do that.
thank you, Penny.
I know.
Penny, yes.
Thank you,
Love
Penny.
it. It's awesome.
Okay, so you took her into the 2016 Rio Olympics,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, she was
Okay.
like literally holding my hand to the tent, to the
The
call
whole
room. Like
time.
she was right
Oh,
beside
I
me.
love that.
Yeah.
Well, Brazil's on my bucket list, I just have to
Oh,
say.
I know. I'd love to go there.
Do you have any specific, like, memorable experiences on or off the track in Rio?
Rio was, here's the thing, as Olympian for me anyways, you guys,
Yep.
we fly in, we do our business, and we get out. There is not a lot of
Yeah.
time to like see
To
things.
travel.
There's no time to like get to know the area.
We'll go
Mhm.
back with you.
Yeah.
I would love to
We'll
go.
take a
I
trip.
have a very long list of areas, like countries I want to go back and visit and like
Totally.
enjoy
Yeah.
the food and the drinks and like the atmosphere
Oh,
that I
yeah.
would never have been able to do.
Yep.
No, but in Rio, I think one of my, it's actually kind of funny, but we were heading to, I'm sponsored by Nike. So I was heading to the Nike house in Brazil with a couple of my teammates. Both of them, one of them was a thrower. So he's like 6'7", like
Oh my
300
God.
pound big guy. Right. And, we're,
I'm 4'11", and Ella's what, 5'2"?
yes.
5'2".
Okay. So you can
Yeah.
imagine how big he is. And
He's
I'm like,
huge.
Yeah.
I'm 5'7". I'm not short, but I was at my
Right.
fittest that I've ever been. So I'm like, I'm muscular, but
Yeah.
I'm tiny, right? I don't weigh a lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
And anyways, we're on our way home from the Nike house, and in Brazil, at that time, because it was the Olympics, the taxis couldn't take you right to the village. They had to drop you off like so
Okay.
many distance away. They weren't allowed to like enter this circle, right? Because it was restricted
Okay.
by Olympic rules and safety reasons.
Yep.
So we had to take a like a train, like a tram from where the
Yeah.
taxi dropped us to the village. But I had to pee so
Oh my
bad.
God.
Like I was losing my mind. Like I didn't know what
What'd you
to do.
do?
So Tim, the guy I was with, and another athlete, he was a rowing friend of his, were all from like the same area back home up in like northeastern Ontario. We got to the train station. I don't have any money on me because we didn't have to bring anything.
You
All
don't
I
carry
have
any
is a
money. Right.
credential, which maybe it would cost money. I don't know, but all I have is a credential. We get into
Yep.
this tram station, and I was like, Tim, I need a bathroom now. Like, I will pee
Immediately.
behind you. Just guard me.
Anything.
Anything. And so we actually found a bathroom in the tram station, but you needed to pay to get access to it, and we don't have any money. And
Oh God.
thankfully, he had like Apple Pay on his phone. You could like scan it, and like in the nick
Yep.
of time, I got into that bathroom to pee. But I've never been like so panicked in my life because I had to pee. I'm in Brazil. I am like 3 kilometers
You're
away of
like,
where
I'm
I need to
dying.
be, and I can't
Right.
hold this in
Yep.
anymore. Like,
Yep.
I mean, I can train my bladder, but not like
Not
this.
that much.
No.
And you've
That's so
remembered that
funny.
moment all these years.
Yep. That's
That is
hilarious.
Yeah.
hilarious. So, and then between Rio and Tokyo,
Yeah.
unless you got married,
Yes.
you became a mom,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
both huge
Yeah.
milestones, which is unusual and incredible. Did those personal changes affect how you approached preparation or even your overall perspective on competing in Rio as opposed to Tokyo?
Yeah. So I came out of Rio. I finished fourth in Rio, by the way. I was very, very, very close to a medal. And
Yes,
I like that was heartbreak
we saw.
in and of itself to recover from that
Yes.
because that was my Olympics to medal. Like I truly all the work I did with my sports psych, like that's where I saw myself on the podium was in Rio.
Yeah.
So it took a very long time to overcome that.
Of
My
course.
husband proposed right before Rio at a
Oh.
training camp we were at. And I told him,
He's so fabulous, by
I
the
love
way.
him so
He's
much.
handsome and fabulous,
He
and
is.
you and your kids.
Oh, I just love him.
Sorry,
It's
I
okay.
digressed.
He proposed, and of course, I'm like, you know, very excited, and there's tears, and I'm jumping up and down. And like a couple days after, I'm like, look, I love you, and I can't wait to marry you. But I can't plan a wedding until Rio is over. Like my
Yeah,
focus is on Rio right now.
has to
And
be
he
on
was like,
this.
oh,
Yeah.
hell no, we are not talking wedding until you are like done that season. Like he was on board for everything. That
I
man is
love
like my number
that.
one supporter.
Mm.
Anyways,
That's what you need in life, right?
you
Yeah.
do. Like he's
You
been in my
picked well.
corner through everything. Um, so we had a wedding to look forward to, which really helped get me out of that slump because it like that was my career.
Right.
That
Yeah.
was my job. And
Yeah.
I felt that I had failed at that. I can tell
Yeah.
you now, after a lot of
You did
work,
not
I did
fail.
not
No.
We
fail.
will
That was the most,
You did not
no,
fail. We will discuss
we
that. I have a
can,
bunch of questions regarding
we
that
can.
word. My
Um,
least favorite word.
yes. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
so we got married, and then I came back. I ran another year, and I said to OC, like, I don't want to wait to start our family. This is not
Yeah.
something, I mean, it was at a time in 2017, 2018, where women being pregnant in sport was the very unpopular opinion. That was not something
Absolutely.
you did. I was at the peak of my career. I'm talking like I owned Canadian records at this point. I was top three in the world, and my husband and I wanted, like, we paused to have a
Yeah.
family. And I told him,
Yep.
if I am never able to come back to this sport or have the support of my sponsors or even like I get injured, I'm okay to end my career where it's at right now. I don't know that I can get much more out of that. And so that was like his final answer, my final answer. We had
Yeah.
Corinne. And then COVID happened
So cute.
right away, right? That
Yep.
going into Tokyo.
Yep.
And so I actually I credit COVID. This sounds awful, but I
Yeah.
credit COVID for the extra year going into Tokyo because
You got that
I
time.
needed that extra time for my body to like really get adjusted to being a mom.
Yeah.
And so what I found the most difficult, okay, how do I go to work knowing I have this baby at home that I just want to be like I want to be in it 100%. I can't I wasn't able to separate the two. You guys, I couldn't go to
Yeah.
work and leave home there. I was always bringing home with me, and it came to the point where I told OC, my husband, I was like, I can't bring her to practice. I can't have you at practice. I'm going to work. I have 3 hours to just focus on Melissa and my career right now. And when I come home, I am full on mom. And
On
what it
you.
So
made,
that's how
Yeah.
you
yeah,
separated
it,
it.
it had to be a hard line. And then as we got into a routine, and it was summertime and it was nice, then yes, come to the track and play in the pit and like get in the sand. Like,
Yeah.
I had established my routine, and I could very easily separate the two. What I
Right.
credit actually is, prior to having kids, I would go into these races and go to practice and get really down on myself if I didn't perform well, if I didn't do what I was supposed to do, if I didn't meet my
Yeah.
expectations. And I would just I would carry it home and I would slump through the day, and, it would just kind of be a burden on me. But when I came
Yep.
home, there's like this smiling baby who's ready to play and sees mom and is just like, okay, you can drop all that. This is not the end of the world. It is like,
She
Yeah.
became your why,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
She
yes.
became your why.
I love
Yes,
that.
because
I love
it
that.
totally put things into perspective. If I don't
Yeah.
perform, if I don't reach a certain time, if I don't get on the podium, if I don't have an Olympic medal, my
It's
life's not
okay.
over.
Yeah.
I have
You have your
so
family.
much going for me, more than
Yeah.
more than a physical medal around my neck.
Medal.
And that's
Absolutely.
exactly how I look at things right now, and the message that I'm trying to share with so many of the athletes that I work with right now.
I think that mindset's amazing. Did you ever kind of feel judged or unsupported though, like in choosing to prioritize motherhood
Motherhood.
and your running career, like by the people that you were surrounded with outside of like your actual family?
Um, Definitely not by my support crew. Like they
Like your
were,
circle.
yeah, my
Yeah.
circle was like they were cemented.
Tight.
We were very tight. They were totally okay with it. Um,
Yeah.
Even the girls I ran with on the international scene, a lot of them were like, yes, like thank you for doing this, and
Yep.
starting to pave the path. Not that I was the only one. There was a couple very high-end athletes who also got pregnant at that time, who also helped pave
Oh,
the path, and open up the possibilities for women in sport, because
Yeah.
maternity leave does not exist in sport. If you're
no.
Yep.
We are paid to perform. That is our
Yes.
job. And if you're not performing, then we're not paying. And so
Right.
I don't know if
That's hard.
it's very
Yeah.
hard.
And I feel like, sorry to interrupt
No.
you, but I'm just curious if outside of your circle, which I love, if you felt like anyone checked in on you, mentally, like how is this period of transition, becoming a mom, getting married, all of this, getting engaged, how are you doing?
Mhm. I don't think anybody outside of my circle checked in. But
Right.
I will say that my my circle is my people. Like they are still my
Yeah.
people
Right.
now. Not that I would expect anybody outside of that circle to check in, really, Terry. I had a couple sponsors who did
Uh-huh.
support me through this. Actually,
That's what I was going to
all of
ask
my
you. Did they check
sponsors,
in?
they stood by me
Yeah.
through it. They stood
I
by
love
Good.
me.
that.
Yeah. And
That's
Amazing.
amazing.
so I do thank them for that, because without their support, there's no possible way that I could have made it to Tokyo without their support. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a huge financial burden when you don't
Yeah.
have the support.
Right.
We are amateur athletes. We show up every 4 years on your TV. People don't see the in between years, right? So like,
Oh,
we're
Yeah.
not a pro sport. We don't get paid that kind of money.
right.
So I do actually absolutely credit my sponsors, and of course my support circle, for getting me to
Yeah.
Right.
to Tokyo after
I love
having a
that.
family. Yeah.
Got
So I know Tokyo was in 2020, and I feel like that must have been extremely different, as you had mentioned
Hmm.
before, like with the pandemic
Yeah.
restrictions.
I can't
What
even
was
imagine
that?
what that
I
was
mean,
like.
I can't even imagine. Like, what was that like competing under those kind of
It
circumstances?
was, it kind of sucked, truthfully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you go into the Olympics, having been to two, I'm like, you expect a certain level of adrenaline coming from the village, coming from the fans in the stands, coming from the
Yep.
city, because they're host city. And it just wasn't possible because of COVID. And Japan did a very good job at keeping everybody as safe as possible. They're very
Yeah.
strict. I will tell you, we went to a
Right.
pre-camp, a pre-training camp about 2 weeks before the games. We flew over to get acclimatized to like the weather, the time change, stuff like that. We stayed at a hotel that was within walking distance to the track. Like you could look out the window and you could see the stadium from the hotel.
Oh my God.
The
That must have been incredible.
It was amazing, but the restrictions were so tight that our entire team had to use the staff elevator to access our dining room, which was on one
Oh,
floor. You could not leave the hotel. You couldn't,
it just changed the whole
it changed
experience.
everything. You were
Yeah.
basically confined to your room. I mean, you were masked. We weren't allowed to walk to the track. You could see it. We had to get
But you
on a
couldn't
bus
get
that would
there.
drive us to the
Yeah.
track because we weren't allowed to, like, for the safety of everybody, to interact with
Right.
locals. We couldn't do
And that's got to
anything.
be hard mentally because it changes kind of that feeling that you're getting from everybody being
Yeah.
around you and
That
cheering
support.
you and
You
being
guys,
excited for you.
Teri, that's exactly what it was. Like, you go into pre-camp prior to the games, there's not much more work to do. Like, you have done the work.
Yeah.
Right.
You get to the games and, like,
You
you're at the
got
track
here.
for 2 hours, just like you're just sharpening your edges. That's all you're
tuning.
doing. Like, you're
Yeah.
not spending hours at the track. So what the hell else do you do for the another 9 hours of the day? I watched so much Netflix. Our team gave us
I can't
Legos,
imagine. I was gonna say.
coloring books. Like, they gave us everything possible to keep us busy, but
Legos.
like we weren't allowed to even interact with our teammates. It was just not
Right.
allowed because it was
Not
like
agree.
COVID was so high then. So it
Ugh.
was completely different. Entering the
Yeah.
village again, different. You couldn't interact with anybody.
Right.
We had roommates, but we had already been, exposed to each other.
Right.
Yeah.
The stands had cardboard fans in them. So any
Oh.
I
Oh,
know any
I didn't know
athlete,
that.
yeah, some of the stands had cardboard fans just to like fill the
Wow.
space because that stadium is huge.
Because
Yeah,
it's huge and
massive.
so they wanted to make it
Yes.
feel
And so
warmer.
any
But like not actually having fans that were like interacting and cheering. It was
correct.
like cardboard. Like,
Right. So
ugh.
the only people in the stands were the actual track athletes. Like if
Yep.
you're a track athlete, then you can feel free to enter the stadium and watch. So I guess there was
I watched all
some
this and I
people,
never saw that.
yeah,
That's actually so
yeah,
interesting. That's an
Yeah, they didn't show it
interesting.
like
no.
that.
And it was kind of dead.
Wow.
And well, of course it was. The energy was dead. Like you're used to like cheering and like
Obviously.
deafening cheering in a stadium like that, and there was nothing. Nothing.
Yeah.
Right. So here's the next part.
Mm.
So obviously, being talented enough to represent your country in the Olympics is the accomplishment, period. That is the accomplishment.
Yes.
But I'm sure at your level, you're probably conditioned to go for the gold.
Yeah.
So coming so close and getting fourth place and, and not medaling has to have been the most, as you touched upon earlier, emotional experience for you.
Mhm.
Can you really share what kind of that was like?
Oh, you're gonna make me cry about it.
I know. I
Oh,
feel like I just got
I
all
know.
teary because for us, like it's unfortunate that that's the way it is,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
what an accomplishment to get
Yeah,
to
exactly.
three
To even
Olympics.
be there.
No.
Yes.
You know?
And
So it's for us, it's such a different view because we're like, oh my God,
Like
you
she's in
are
the Olympics.
incredible.
right.
Yes.
And I think that's what's so hard to explain to everybody is that like this was what you guys see on TV, any Olympic athlete is years and years and years in the making
Years in the making.
for 2 minutes or less.
I know.
And that's just in my race. Like think of the 100-meter sprinters. They're like sub 10 seconds, right? Like
Right.
Yeah.
so it was very hard. I cried a lot. I remember it was being broken heart. If you've ever had a broken heart, that's
yeah.
all I can describe it as is a broken heart. I had put everything, my entire support team put everything they had into that race.
Yeah.
And I just remember like nobody was upset with me. Nobody was angry with me. I was angry. I feel like I went through all the stages of grief. And I feel so
Yeah.
silly saying grief because I didn't lose anybody.
No. You worked your whole life, for this.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So in a way, it was like losing
Yes.
somebody, like
Not to that
hypothetically.
extent, but I went through like
Yes.
the anger and the sadness and I went through all of that trying to
Yeah.
get over it. And like it didn't happen overnight, you guys. Like this was like I'm talking we're like 4 months out of the games and I'm still tearing
Oh,
up
yeah.
over it, talking to my sports psych, and I'm still, trying to grapple with like, what could I have done different? Why me, why does this happen? And the truth is, it's like sport has no feelings. Sport is not
Yeah.
just going to show up for you because you want it to show up. It doesn't work like that. That's life.
Yeah.
I'm sure Penny's told you this, so I'm going to say it. We think you're incredible.
Incredible.
Thank you.
And as I think about it, I think of, is there like one or two strategies that you could think of that helped you kind of find perspective and push through despite the heartbreak?
Yeah, I think it was me just coming to terms with like, okay, this is
Acceptance.
yeah, accepting it. I don't actually have that physical medal, but what I did have, I ran a Canadian record. I was representing
Yeah.
my
Yep.
country. I ran the best race of my life. Like I look back at that race and there's not one thing I could change about it. Like it was that
Yeah.
good. And so realizing those things in those moments was like, okay, I'm okay. Well, if a
Yeah.
part of me forever hurt, yes. But
Of
am I
course.
still here? Am I happy? Am I smiling? Yes. Do I still love the sport? Yes. This is just, it's a story to tell now. That's it. That's all it
Right.
is. And in those immediate moments after, it was really the support of my team. And I can't stress that enough, is having your best friends and your family or the team that you surround you with you, because
The
they're,
support circle is
it
everything.
got me through it.
Yeah.
It totally got me through it.
It's going to be my new favorite word,
I
by the
love
way,
it.
The
support
support
circle.
circle.
You're
I
going to
love
hear me
it.
saying it
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah, because I was just gonna ask like if there's something in particular that kind of help you bounce back, but I would assume like that would be your support like
Yeah.
circle and your team
And
and
just
like
getting into it, like I had to rip the band-aid off and just get back
yeah.
into it. And it was hard to get back into it because it was always like hanging in the back of my head. But like once I got into it and was able to like push my body and like sweat and work hard and breathe really hard and like push my body over the edge, I was like, okay, let's go chase a new goal. Let's
Yep.
reframe, let's reset. And then the next year I went and ran another Canadian record. So, it's
There you go.
just setting new goals.
It's setting new
Yeah.
goals for yourself.
Yes.
I was going to say, was there any time during that 4 months where you felt like your mental health was really just not well despite crying, or you kind of,
Actually, Teri, Um, the opposite. I knew that my mental health was okay. I was just going through a period of time that I knew I would get through. I just needed time to do it. What
right.
my mental health after the 2012 games, though, was actually concerning for me now that I can look back on that. They call it the Olympic blues. And
Mm.
Oh,
I'd only heard about it, I'd never experienced it. But essentially, it's this pivotal moment where you make your Olympic team, your dreams come true, you go to the Olympics and you're just riding this high, you're high, you're high, you're high. It peaks and then it just drops off. The games are over. Nothing's happening.
Yeah.
Everything just drops to an all-time low. There's no more running. There's the season's over. The hype is gone. The media
Right.
hype is gone. There's no more, like the excitement is gone. And I can remember, and I totally was going through it. I didn't have a sports psych at the time, but now, looking back, I was like, oh, you totally went through some mild form of depression. I was sleeping for like
Yeah.
days. I was crying all the time. Like I was so upset
Yeah.
about my performance, and it's just
the
not
Olympic
talked about enough. And
blues.
it is now. We have the support, as we learn from all of these things, there's a lot more support there for athletes to help them through these periods.
Right.
But in 2012, again, I was so naive to just my performance going into there and what my performance could be.
Yeah.
But yeah, it certainly takes a toll.
What like does it take to build the mental toughness needed to kind of compete at the highest level? I know
Repetition.
that's kind of yeah,
It's
that's a broad
repetition and
question, but
practice.
okay.
Like I can remember my first like real like project or like homework I had from my sports psych was to meditate
Yeah.
what I wanted my ideal race to look like. And I would sit,
Okay.
and I was injured, so I had the time. I would sit and I would just run through the race in my head over and
Yep.
over and over again. And I would
Okay.
just meditate and meditate and meditate. And 6 months later, here I am. I have a gold medal at the Pan Am Games. 3 weeks later, I have a silver medal from the World Championships. Like it
Incredible.
works. Your mental
Yeah, the repetition.
resilience is it's
Everything.
everything. It is hard
Yeah.
work. Don't get me wrong. It's not something that just like, oh, you have it. It takes time to
Yeah.
learn, but it is the strongest tool you have. Your brain is so powerful, so powerful.
Okay, so I'm going backwards a
Hmm.
minute because my brain is working on overdrive when you were talking about your
Yeah.
sponsors. Did you ever feel pressure to stay quiet about, any of the topics that now become a cancel culture topic because you are part of something bigger than yourself? Or could you always be authentically who you are?
I hid my first and my last pregnancy for a very long time because I didn't know
Hmm.
what kind of support I would have. And
Yeah.
the second one was that one I could make public right away because I knew that I had the support. Um, but my last one, you know, I'm at a point where, is she going to return to sport? What is she going to do? She's got two kids now,
Yeah.
and it's very stereotypical. Like, you have two
It
kids, you
is.
can't come back to full-time running. You can't do that. Women's bodies can't do that. And
Right.
yeah, I've a lot had to not say anything because there are, for some reasons that
Right.
I can't even say now. Like, you're
Yep.
damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Don't.
You are.
Yeah. You
I
can't
think
You
win.
that's
can't
kind of
win.
the culture that we live in
Yeah.
now, which is,
Sad.
for all
It
of us.
is.
How has the sport changed, since you started competing? Because since you started to now, it is,
Yes,
you know,
Probably very
it's
different.
a
totally
very
changed.
different sport.
I think there's a lot more support for women athletes and I say a lot more support than what I was facing in 2018, six
Right.
years
Yeah.
ago. Um,
Right.
it's not so much, it's more the norm to see women take time off from sport and come back. That's becoming a norm now, which I'm so thankful for. It was not a norm then. We
Right.
have, um, we have rules in place to protect women while they're pregnant now through sport. They get financial support through our carding system now up here in Canada. It's different in every country, but here in Canada, they can have
Yeah.
financial support through their pregnancy,
That's
after
incredible.
pregnancy. There's no like real maternity leave like we would,
Yeah.
Right.
that everyone would be like typical to. That doesn't exist. But maybe that's the next step forward.
I feel like it's so cool to see all of these documentaries like centered around like the track and field, like sprint, like all of that like take off on Netflix. And I know that might not necessarily like be about your race specifically. But how has kind of the culture, I know it's kind of a similar question, but like around the running and track and field specifically like evolved over your career?
It's actually, we are at a time when we need documentaries like Sprint. Our
Yeah.
our sport is dying, I feel. Like, we are not a popular sport. There's so many sports that are up and coming that are maybe, weren't as big as it used to be. I think,
I mean, I saw break dancing this year.
right?
Right?
I know. So I
Yeah.
think athletics at the Olympics will always be the event to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think social media and everything that we're in right now, it only helps to elevate our sport, but it's also
Yeah.
elevating other sports. And I think we're at a time when we have to be really careful in our sport um, around what we're actually doing. So I know that there's like, for anybody who's like a super fan of track and field, you have to pay to watch most of these athletics events online or on TV,
Right.
right? Why
Which is
it's
crazy.
just crazy. We're just
That's
limiting
crazy to
our
me.
fan base by
Yeah.
putting a
Right.
putting a paywall in front of everything. Like, you want to grow
Right.
this sport, then it needs to be seen on TVs everywhere. Granted, there is a lot more viewership because we have the capabilities of putting it on TV now, but oftentimes there's like
Right.
smaller stuff there's a paywall and people just aren't going to pay to watch.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think sprint is
Yep.
something that is totally, we need it in our sport. We need it.
Yeah.
Well, now you're very involved in two nonprofits.
Yes.
So, can you tell us a little bit about Momentum?
Yeah. So
Yes.
Momentum is a new nonprofit, which both of my nonprofits I'm very passionate about because they both speak to me in different languages, if you will.
Yeah.
The first Momentum was just co-founded this year by myself, a couple other athlete moms, some women in research, and a couple women who are very passionate about women's reproductive rights and family planning and
It's
things.
incredible,
It
actually.
is things that we, as you know, we're all like generally around the same age, but things that we didn't have access to 6 years ago or even prior to that. And what we're doing right now is we're just trying to provide resources for new moms or moms thinking about having families or parents having families in the middle of their career. We're just trying to provide resources to them. And I mean, we are
Love that.
small. We supported, I think, 7 athletes going into Tokyo this year, 7 Canadian
That's not so
Olympic and
small.
Paralympic athletes. Yeah, it was a really big
Yeah.
deal.
We always say if you can just help
Yes.
one
One
person,
person.
then
Yep.
you're doing what we were
Yeah.
meant to do.
Even if it was for childcare, like I think that's one of the biggest things is like,
Absolutely.
who's going to take care of my kid? Who's going to nurse my baby when I'm competing,
Yeah.
right? Like these are things
Right.
that
Yeah.
the general public isn't thinking about. And maybe sometimes the people who are in charge of making these policies are not thinking about. And so now we are just a group of very fired up women and motivated women who are trying to make a difference up here in
Yep.
Canada. Yeah.
I love it. Are there like, I mean, that all is so inspiring, but like what specific messages do you hope to share with like other moms through your involvement with
Well, the
Momentum?
tricky part is like any kind of research that you do with moms and babies is very dangerous, right? So there isn't a lot of
Yeah.
research to support like, okay, you need to do this, this, and this after you're out of your postpartum stage in order to return to sport. And it's so particular to each person dependent on the sport that you're in. So I think the message that we want to get out is just like we are here. We've been through this. We have some support for you. We have a network of connections that we have all been through. Like I have my handful of people who helped get me through sport, pregnant,
Yeah.
and then afterwards. What are those? What
Right.
could those connections do for the next mom coming up? And so, what does egg
Oh, I love
freezing? What
that.
does egg freezing
I
look
love
like?
that.
Because some people aren't
Yep.
ready to have families right now and they want to freeze their eggs,
Yeah.
or maybe they need IVF treatment. How can we help? Like, where can
I
we
love
come in?
that.
And so it's really just us. I think we're just like gathering data right now. We're trying to help as we can with all the small connections that we have. But ultimately, I think the
Yep.
sky's the limit here for what we can do
Well,
for
and I
sport.
think this is so important. So
Yes.
I love that. Between Momentum and I'm going to introduce it because we are huge supporters and
Yes.
fans of Classroom
Yes.
Champions. So can you tell our listeners
Yeah.
a little more about Classroom Champions and what your role is there? Because your role is incredible and so important.
Yes.
Okay. I love Classroom Champions. I fell
We do
upon
too.
Classroom Champions when I was pregnant with my second daughter. And Classroom Champions is a program that takes it's all done through social emotional learning. And what we do is we take
Yep.
very elite, world-class, professional Olympic, Paralympic athletes. We take one, we put them into a classroom virtually, and the athletes mentor the kids for an entire year. They get to talk to this athlete on things like perseverance, teamwork, community, goal setting, things that are not necessarily taught in the curriculum,
Taught in school.
but athletes are so good. They have an experience, so they can talk. They're so good at talking about this stuff. You want to talk to an athlete about perseverance, they have like a long list of stories. Where do we start? Talk to them about goal setting, talk to them about teamwork. And so these athletes are helping to instill the athlete mindset on these
Yeah.
kids from a very young age. We're teaching these kids, okay, how do you persevere? How do you set a goal? You didn't get an A plus on your math test. What can we do now to try and get ready for the next math test? Or how do they handle
Right.
that failure, the F word? How do you handle failure? How do you a lot of kids don't know how to do that. They don't know how to handle their
Yeah.
emotions. What does it feel like to be angry? What does it feel like to be sad? Most kids can't recognize those emotions, but athletes are
No.
a really great starting point to opening up these conversations with these kids. And 9 times out
Yeah.
of 10,
It's so important.
you put an Olympic athlete on a screen in front of 30 kids, they're going to listen, right? Like
They're
Yep.
paying
they're
attention.
paying
Yep.
attention. And so that's what we're trying to do through our curriculum is instill this athlete mindset through our athletes to the kids.
I think it's amazing. I mean, we love like just the way like you guys work with the kids to just build like confidence and resilience
Yeah.
and like a strong sense of self. And I just think like it's amazing. And I know you talked about some of them, but like are there any more specific like key lessons that you and other mentors like really, really focus on like teaching these kids that are like missing from like specifically the school curriculum? Because I didn't get any of this when I was in school.
No,
Social emotional learning is not taught in
Yeah,
school.
but it's just as
because
important, I feel like.
It's expected to be taught at home.
it is.
Yeah.
And I don't
And
know
that's
that
the problem.
we can rely on it to be taught at home. And I will be the
Yeah.
first to say this. I mean, I feel like I have a handle on a lot of the topics that we talk about in Classroom Champions. How I was relaying that to my daughter and how I relay it to my two youngest is not something I was really aware of until I became a part of the Classroom Champions family. It has totally
Yeah.
opened my eyes to how I speak to my daughter about conflict, how I speak to my daughter about, setting goals and just showing up and trying something new, and what it feels like to maybe not make the team, or like she went to try goalie. She was hockey and goalie the other day, and she was really excited to do it. So she did it. And I could tell when she was on the ice, she's like, I don't like this. I don't hate it. And she's like close to
Yep.
tears. And I was like, you know what? You tried it. That's the
You
most
tried.
it.
important
Yep.
thing that you did, is you tried it. And
Yep.
it's completely changed the way that I will.
Your mothering is different
My
because of
mothering
it,
is
right?
different.
Yeah.
Because
I love
that's how I
that.
look at it. I think every single day, and I don't know if Ella can attest to this, but my mothering is different as we do Chasing Red Flags, and we speak
100%.
to incredible guests like you, because you're teaching us, and
So
then
much.
I start to parent better
Yes.
and different because I
Yeah.
make mistakes on a daily.
Yeah.
I agree with that, Mom, 100%. And I mean, your parenting's always been amazing, but like really talking to people, especially like you, like we just learn so much and it makes us
We're
grow.
sponges, right? We're
Yeah.
supposed to
We're
learn and educate ourselves and get better every day,
Yep.
and not shame ourselves for not doing well the day before.
That's right. And I think,
Um,
the primary, like who we're really trying to help at Classroom Champions is the kids. But without
Right.
the athletes and without our educators, we can't help the kids. And so even the
The kids.
educators are saying, I really had to take a step back and think, I'm not even emotionally regulating myself before I go into this lesson with
Yeah.
the kids. How I need to learn how to do this before I can teach my kids how to
I
do
can
this,
teach.
right?
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. And there's so much emphasis these days placed on achievement,
Yes.
right? So, Classroom Champions, how do they help kids define success in the terms of effort and personal growth and resilience rather than just winning?
Right. So in my perspective, winning isn't
Yep.
normal. Winning is not something that
Yes.
everybody gets to do. And it took me 3 Olympic Games to figure this out. There can only be one winner. Like, not everybody can
Right.
win.
But everybody is a winner in a different way.
Yes.
And that's what we're
I like
trying
that.
to teach them.
And so that's what we're trying to, not that this message is specifically what we're sharing at Classroom Champions, but it can certainly be built into a number of the topics that we talk about, is like, okay, so you don't actually have the physical medal to say that you won, but what's another way that you won? Did you try
Yeah,
hard?
exactly.
Did you compete? Did you
Right.
study for your test? Did you answer majority of the questions right? Did you get one answer right? Like, it's always trying to build them up. Let's build
I love that.
confidence in these kids because they're missing it. They're
The
missing.
problem is worth is tied to productivity
Yes.
right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that's,
I
to
used to
me,
feel that 100%.
Ella felt it.
Yeah.
You know, I took part in it more
Yeah.
in the olden days than I do now. But I do feel that worth is tied to productivity, and we should be teaching empathy and respect
Yeah.
and kindness,
Yes.
Yeah.
and not to judge others, and that there's winning in all sorts of different ways.
That's right.
Without, like you said, the medal.
Yeah. And Ella, I'm going to call you out here, but like I heard some of your mom and I had a really great chat prior to me coming on this call. And I think,
Yeah.
you were hiding behind this, Ella, that people wanted you to be. And that's what so many people, so many kids
Do.
feel like they need to do. They need to hide behind somebody they think they need to be for somebody.
Yep.
And that's not who we want to see. We want to see like the true, authentic person. And we are just giving them a safe space to express that
to do it.
and give them the confidence to live in that person. We don't need to see what, all of your friends want Ella to be. We need to see the Ella
Yes.
that like your mom truly knows, and that I feel like I know now after talking to your mom.
Yes.
That's what,
And I think that's so important.
It
I
is.
do. And I feel like I'm still learning that to this day, and I'm still trying to like be
Your
that
mom
person.
and I are still
it takes a
learning it
long
too.
time. Exactly.
It's a lifetime of learning.
But it's
I say that to her
emphasizing
every
it and
day.
teaching people that that's what it should be.
Yeah.
We talk about the messiness of being human every day.
Yeah.
You're not human if you're not messy and learning and growing, right?
I love this.
And failing.
Yes,
And
because we
failing.
are human.
So-
We're not robots. We are
Right.
not conditioned to like achieve every goal and get an A on every math test. And we are human. We can have emotion. We can be angry and we can be sad about things. But it's teaching these kids that like, be a human. Don't be this robot that like social media and all of this crap that we're seeing on YouTube is like, you have to be this and you have to have this and you have to have the perfect
No.
eyelash, whatever is going on. Like, Be a
I
human.
I'm saying to Ella on the daily, and I think I've kind of always been this way, Ella, unless
Yeah.
you know, but failure is an important teacher, right?
100%.
I've had my share of failures in life. I still have them on a daily basis.
Me
Mothering
too.
is like I like to say, and they've taught me a lot of lessons.
Yep.
So, how can you help teach not just the classroom champions kids, but your own kids that failure is an opportunity to grow and learn? You're the perfect example. I would never, ever use the word failure attributed to you, but I know you
Yeah.
use that for yourself.
Yes.
Yourself. Yeah.
But, and I say this having 3 Olympics behind me, but like failure is where I learned all of my lessons.
Yeah.
That's where I learned, you know, in a very specific form, like you shouldn't do this in a race, and maybe it would be better to do this in a race to position yourself here. But I've also learned so much more in those moments of failure. You don't, when you're on top, you guys, when you have success, and if you always succeeded, what more would there be to
Yeah.
learn? If
I agree
not,
with that.
if not for putting yourself at the very bottom of what you would define, like for where you are in your career, what your goals were, you didn't reach them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, what am I going to do next time to reach that goal? Every time I had a race I wasn't happy about, I gave myself my 2 hours to just like cry and feel bad
Yep.
for myself and have pity and whatever. And then I was like, okay, we're done.
On to the next.
What did I do?
Right.
What can I do better? How am I going to execute the next time? And it's just building on that and making that a routine.
I think that's such a good mindset, like for sports, but also just in anything in
Yes,
life.
it is.
Yeah.
It can be carried over
Success
into
has
life.
to, yeah, I think success has to stop being measured by standing at a podium.
Yeah.
I think about this all the time, and I used to say this actually when I was much younger. The cereal box, right? The cereal box always has the gold medal winner on it, because that's what we're teaching that true winning is about. And that's the problem, because winning is also found in preparation and consistency
Mhm.
and growth.
Yeah.
That's where the winning is, not necessarily the medal.
No, and I would say, and that's why I had such a hard time, because winning to me
Yeah.
was a material item. It was a physical
Right.
piece of hardware around
Yep.
my neck. That's what my definition of winning was. And then I smartened up and I did some soul searching, and I had the help of my team, and I realized it's not about this
Not
physical
that.
medal around my neck. Do I wish I had one? Yes, so
Of
freaking
course.
badly.
Of
I wish I had
course.
one. But that doesn't define who I
Who you
am as
are.
an athlete or a
Yep.
mom or a person. That's not,
Right.
I've won in so many other areas. I don't need a
Other
medal to
ways.
tell me you won.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think that's so true. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, before we wrap things up, we would love to shift gears. We always do this with our guests and have like a little fun rapid fire, like lighthearted questions about just like your Olympic experiences in
Yep.
general. Okay, I'll go first, Mom.
Okay.
Okay, I have to know. I'm a big foodie. I love food, literally everything. So, like, what was
Loves
your
food.
favorite food or meal that you tried during like any time of the Olympic locations?
Tokyo had the best sushi.
Oh, she's gonna
I
be
love
jealous.
sushi. I love sushi. Okay, good to
Okay.
know.
Did you get the chance to meet any other athletes or famous people like that you have always admired?
Yes, you get the chance to meet a lot of athletes. I can't remember like in particular and like, oh my God, like I fangirled over anybody.
Yeah.
But the Olympic Village I always have felt is such a sanctuary. Like I don't want to fangirl over anybody in the Olympic Village, because I feel like it should be like a safe haven for athletes to
Yeah.
I
just
love
go and
that.
I
compete
like that too.
and not have to kind of deal with the outside noise. So I never allowed myself to fangirl.
Okay.
That's
I
awesome.
actually I love that answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, if you could go back to like one of the 3 Olympics you were at that you competed in,
Yeah.
but just like as a spectator and like soak it
Ooh.
all in, which one would it be? And why?
Oh, probably London or Tokyo. I think London was just, it was just so big, and I was so blind to so much. Like I took so much in, but I just couldn't experience all of it. Tokyo,
Yeah.
I think I want to go back and let them host again, because had it been to like its full capacity without COVID, I think that would have been one of the
Yeah.
best games I had ever been
Totally
at.
different.
Yeah.
Okay. If you could pick one non-athletic activity to compete in at our redefined Olympics, like karaoke or cooking, what would it be?
Baking.
Baking.
Baking. Ooh, what do you bake?
I like to bake breads, like cinnamon buns, homemade bread, monkey bread.
Oh, Ella loves
Cookies are like on
I love
rotation
monkey
in
bread.
our house right now because it's Christmas and I
Yep.
have kids, so we're eating a lot of cookies. I love to
Love
bake.
it.
Okay. I think we're gonna have to take a trip to Canada, a
I
business
know.
trip,
I'd be
Ella.
happy to
And get
host.
some food.
That would be so
Please.
fun.
Okay, wait, you were saying this earlier and I might have like misinterpreted, but the accommodations, we heard they weren't that great, but you were saying that they are, or like you got like a lot of stuff when you were there?
Yeah, so you get a lot of stuff, but the accommodations are it's like
Not
living
good.
in an
Yeah.
apartment building, like first year
Okay.
residence, if you will. Like
Yep.
single bed, two to a room, sometimes
Yep.
4 to a room, depending on the room size.
Right.
Most recently, like in Tokyo and in Rio, they switched to cardboard beds for environmental
Cardboard?
purposes. Yes, like the frame is made out of cardboard, which
Oh my
to the
God.
average person like my size was no problem. The mattresses weren't comfy, but the actual like sturdiness of the cardboard, like you would never know you're sleeping on a cardboard bed.
Yeah.
So I would say the accommodations are not as luxurious as the general public
As they
may
should be.
think they
Yeah.
are.
Well,
Okay.
and we want to make sure. I mean, I would think that they want you to get like the best night's sleep
Oh,
and have great
100%.
accommodations because
You're
you
these
guys
Olympic
are
athletes.
No.
Olympic athletes.
No, you share
Interesting.
bathrooms, you have roommates, like it's very
Ugh.
first year university vibes.
Oy.
Got it. What's your favorite Olympic sport to watch, not your own?
Gymnastics,
Oh, me too.
so
Us
good.
too. That's our
I
favorite.
love it. It's
Allie
so
Raisman is from
entertaining.
Needham.
It's part.
Yeah, Allie Raisman.
Yes. It's so like it's just athleticism at its finest, right? Like it's just
It's
so pure.
unbelievable.
Yep.
Well, and there's music also. There's just
There's
so
so
many
much
things that
going
go
on.
into it that we're obsessed
Yep.
with. Yeah.
Yep. I love
Yeah.
that. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. And your story is so inspiring, and I think it's going to resonate deeply with so many of our listeners. So we truly appreciate it.
Anytime.
And thank you also for the work you're doing to
Yes.
educate and inspire children because that next stage is really important, and teaching empathy and resilience and perseverance in the classroom is something that
Everything.
isn't being done, and it's incredible. So we thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm so excited to chat with you guys. Anytime.
And that's a wrap on today's episode. We hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as we did. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time. In the meantime, keep being real, keep being you,
And know that we've got your back.
If you have any thoughts, questions, or just want to say hi, we would love to hear from you. Your support means everything to us. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Chasing Red Flags Official, and on Facebook and YouTube at Chasing Red Flags. And if you want to share your story, ask a question, or pick up some Chasing Red Flags merch, go to chasingredflags.com. The Chasing Red Flags podcast is produced by Jay Del Turco. We are new in this space, so if you enjoyed what you're hearing, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or add a comment and like on our YouTube channel.